Hi guys. So a lot of you are on the planning commentary for task one, and some of the general principles here that we're going through apply to all the commentaries. So as you can see, I have my rubric right here that linked to this, and I kind of broke it down for you. All my comments are in yellow, and I did this for prompt one, which is basically question one, prompt one. Just consider that the same thing. And all of 1A through 1D, or the central focus, use rubric one for scoring. So let's talk about what that means. Um, that means, the rubrics are right in front of the scorer looking at your work, and they're saying, oh, okay, look at this, and they're marking your score from a 0 to 5. So where I started, I mentioned this several times, start at 3 when you're looking at these rubrics for things you want to add, and then tweak it to get to a 4 or 5. And you'll see, I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. So I did this for part one, or prompt one, and you guys will have to tell me if you feel like it's useful, so I can do it for the rest of the planning commentary. All right, so for the first question, it says describe the central focus and purpose of the content you will teach in the learning segment. For us, for early childhood ed, the central focus could be a theme, which we talked about, such as feelings, rhyming sounds, or poetry. Those are just examples. And some student artifacts. You'll see that word artifacts. That's just student work. Think of it that way, with what they actually produce. It could include a how-to book, a haiku, a picture poem. They could make a chart drawing pictures about feelings if feelings was your theme. So those just give you an idea of the products that students could produce. And then let's move on, going down to describe how the standards and learning objectives for your learning segment support children's active and multimodal learning. Remember, we talked about that. It's not kind of sounds like a robot, but just think of the word engage. Okay, engage students with open-ended questions, rich materials, play, getting them physical, hands-on, and then engage in establishing relationships with students. Talk to your students, ask them questions, listen, take notes. You want to send the message that making mistakes in your class is okay and part of learning. You encourage them to take risks and take control of their own learning and pursue their own curiosities. And then you also engage through respectful interactions with your students to positively address misbehavior. So what that means is, you're going to engage them positively. We talked about that respect and rapport piece. You want your students to control impulses. You want them to regulate their own behavior. And one way you can do that is by modeling how they talk, act, and treat one another. They're all looking to you whenever, even if you don't think they are. Okay, and then this one, language and literacy development is in an interdisciplinary context. So you can take this one to a 4. So here's how you do it. You explicitly describe how you will use your lesson plans, should be plans, to make connections to students' language and literacy develop, not just what you're planning on doing. Describe how you will use your lesson plans. And rubric one gives an example of a 4-5, and here's that document right here, and I highlighted it, and I wanted, I didn't copy and paste it, but it's right here. I will actively engage the children during the activity about motion and force by having all the children manipulate different types of objects. The children will take turns and use their hands to move objects across the carpet. We will also identify each object and describe it by having the children use their hands and communicate with me and each other about the objects and how they move. See how you have multiple modalities there, active learning, and they're engaged. That is that the difference between 3 is, the candidate just explain what you're planning to accommodate the children's needs for this multimodal experience, and this says how you will do it. So I think that you could easily scoop up a point there. Now back to the documents. So part C, explain how your plans build on each other to support language and literacy in children, and the active multimodal learning. So you ask yourself your question: are your lessons logically sequenced to facilitate learning? Do your plans build on a central focus? Do your plans build on one another? Is it like you don't want 3 separate lessons teaching 3 distinct skills. You want them to build on each other. So you have that theme, you're building on a theme in an interdisciplinary, across disciplinary context. So those are a couple questions to ask. So this last one is describe the physical environment, and does it support active and multimodal learning in children's learning? The physical environment. If it doesn't, meaning you don't have, this is what we talked about, you don't have a lot of control over how the classroom is set up in terms of logistics like desks. This would be an example would be the desks are not conducive to group learning because the students have to, move the desks every time I want them to think, pair, share, and it's just then that's good. That's a start, but then finish it off by saying because what the desks are not conducive to group learning because, and then that because part will force you to take yours to the next level. So if you like this is what I'd like to focus on. I know a lot of you are this is specific to the planning commentary, but what I'm doing is I'm going through the rubrics, the handbooks, and trying to come up with give you guys just some background to help you as you attack these. So you have to let me know if these are helpful or not, and we can do more. So thank you.